Breaking today. King Charles's health is at the center of why he has been unable to properly handle the Prince Andrew scandal. The mainstream media will not report this. As loyal, outspoken viewers know, I have been prepared to sensitively go there.
That line alone tells you everything about where this conversation is going. Because mainstream media doesn't avoid stories randomly, it avoids stories that create problems for the institutions it depends on. So when someone says, "This isn't being reported," the real question isn't whether the information exists. It's who benefits from it staying quiet.
And I'm going to explain why again. Because yes, King Charles is an individual who deserves respect, but as the monarch, as the head of state, there is huge significance in terms of the state of his health. And the reality is that there is a growing feeling within the British royal family that King Charles is indeed dying, and that is why power is shifting to Prince William. That is why Charles's appearances are becoming few and far between, and he is looking unwell. And of course, I have so much sympathy for him in regards to this, especially given he was struck by this terminal cancer so soon after taking the throne. Of course, there is almost a Shakespearean tragedy-like storyline to the life of Charles. But at the same time, we do have to be realistic in terms of what this means for the British royal family and the decisions that a King William V is going to make, both in terms of Andrew and in terms of Harry and Meghan. Now, I'm going to give you some context to all of this. I think it's important, and I do want to do it sensitively. First, this is what Lady Colin Campbell revealed here on Outspoken.
The King is not in any position, health-wise, to add to any stress and burdens that he already has. I mean, his cancer is not curable, or certainly, let me rephrase that, for public consumption. It is not yet cured, and there is no great prognosis that it will ever be cured. So he is having to live with treatment.
Now, what this means, of course, is that the power within the British royal family has shifted towards Prince William. And Tom Sykes of the Royalist Substack, who has been thrust out of the International Royal Rota because of his decision to report on the King's health, does have some stark words about exactly what is going on. He reports readers of the Royalist, unlike those of the craven British newspapers, will be aware of the central fact informing and underpinning this entire story, that King Charles III is dying. Now, Tom Sykes appeared on Substack, and I do want to show you some of this because it's important that you see this in the full context, because he paints a picture of that reality being why Buckingham Palace has not been able to properly cope with the Prince Andrew situation. Watch.
It's a very powerful indication of the chaos which the King's office is in. Partly, as I have repeatedly said, and as you won't read in any of the UK newspapers, this is all about the fact that King Charles is seriously ill and is not expected to live very long. And you can tell that by looking at the photographs, by looking at his schedule, like how quickly and briefly he attends many events, by the fact that he has to go for these very long rest periods. He's in Balmoral at the moment, these very long rest periods before doing any major event. Like, he has to go to the Vatican on Wednesday, and he's going to be the first leader of the Church of England to pray with the head of the Catholic Church. So it's very obvious to anybody watching that the King is really ill. And as I've also said repeatedly, I think he's been amazing. I think he's been incredibly courageous, incredibly brave, all the wonderful adjectives of praise that you could throw at Andrew, the example. And I think it's, anyone who we've all had friends or family who've struggled with cancer, and we know, you know, how inspiring it is when people are amazing about it. But I also fundamentally, it was a massive mistake to announce that he. It was a massive mistake to announce that he had cancer. It's completely weakened him. The Queen did not tell anyone, did not even tell her own family that she was dying. She had bone cancer at the end of her life, the last couple of years of her life, which is very, very painful. I was told she couldn't see very much. She certainly couldn't move around. She spent a lot of her time in bed. But she clung to the fiction that she was immortal because she knew how important it was. She knew how destabilizing it would be if she effectively did what Charles has done and pre-announced her own death, because it fires the gun. It fires the gun on the succession. And that is what this is all about. Make no mistake.
So I guess what Tom
That
Sykes...
phrase is more significant than it sounds. Because succession isn't just a future event, it's a permission structure. The moment it becomes visible, people inside that system stop making decisions for the present and start making them for what comes next. Which means every move happening right now, including Andrew, isn't just about today. It's about how the next reign begins.
And Anna's saying it's good that he announced he had cancer, but yep, I want to point something out, right? He didn't mean to announce. Initially, that was not the plan, to announce that he had cancer. Initially, what happened was he was diagnosed with a benign prostate condition. And he decided that it would be a good idea to say that he was having treatment for a benign prostate condition, for the very admirable reason that it would encourage other men to do it. It would destigmatize the condition, all of those things we hear about. But also, I'm afraid, because Charles has always been aware of his own PR, right? And he realized this was a good way to do a good thing and also portray himself as a modern, accessible guy. This was going to be a very different kind of monarchy to the Queen, who was obsessively secret about her health, etc., etc. But then, when he went in for the benign prostate treatment, they found the cancer while they were doing that. And by that stage, it was too difficult then to cover it up or hide it, or not cover it up, but keep it quiet. It was too hard to keep it quiet because too many people knew, and everybody was asking, how did the surgery go? So they would have been forced into a direct lie, and direct lies that are not unknown in royal communications, but too many people knew. Like, if they hadn't said in the first place that he was going for the benign prostate treatment, which I think was a form of water ablation, which is quite a common treatment for guys as they get a bit older. If they hadn't said he was going for that, and they'd done that procedure, and then they'd found the cancer, and then they'd been able to figure out what it was for 6 or 7 weeks, whilst keeping him private and saying that maybe he wasn't feeling well or what have you, they might have been able to contain it a bit more.
But because of that announcement, there has now been what Tom Sykes reports is a shift of power.
So the power starts to drift away. And that's why Charles's office is being managed so badly, why it's so chaotic, why the messaging is such a mess, why on Wednesday we were being told, oh, there's no point stripping him of the Duke title, he'll still be a prince. And on Friday, suddenly the King's acted decisively and stripped him of his Duke title. Now he's still just a prince, which is like nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so the whole thing is it's really very hard to understand everything that's going on in the royal story at the moment if you read the new UK newspapers, which basically talk about Charles's illness as if he has, a nasty cold, or he's a guest at a dinner party who cannot be, who cannot be offended, or something like that. So I think, well, what all those people do, someone's saying, I can't imagine what all those people actually do, 1,000. I mean, it is that is a good point, but it is, the point is, it is a huge operation. It's a huge operation, and people want to be on the right side of the 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 coin. They want to be allied with the right person.
This is the moment the health story becomes a power story. Because when authority starts drifting, even quietly, even gradually, the people around it don't wait for an announcement. They watch for signals. And right now, the signals are clear. Chaotic messaging, contradictory decisions, a title stripped on Friday that was dismissed as pointless on Wednesday. That's not poor communication. That's what a power transition looks like from the inside.
Rob Shooter has also sort of gone there in his most recent reporting, writing, King Charles's brave battle as Prince William protects the crown. The walls of Buckingham Palace are whispering with concern, not scandal, as King Charles III faces the greatest battle of his reign, a serious, closely guarded illness that has left even his fiercest critics full of admiration for his courage. Royal insiders tell Shooter Scoop the 76-year-old monarch is seriously unwell but determined to carry on, refusing to relinquish his duties despite growing fatigue. He's exhausted, but he won't stop, says one longtime aide. Every morning he insists on reading his red boxes. He believes his service to the country is his calling, and he'll keep going as long as he can. Behind the scenes, Prince William has taken on more responsibility. Even the decision to strip Prince Andrew of the Duke of York title was a joint act of resolve, father and son united to protect the institution. So, to my superstar panel, Based and Bougie, and Steph, the Alter Nerd. So, Steph, of course, on one of your channels, you cover the royal family. Where do you stand on this? Because obviously reporting on someone's health is difficult. My view is that because he's the monarch, it's certainly historic. It's not something that we can ignore. And at the same time, given the Prince Andrew scandal, it really does provide some type of insight into why so much of this power is moving to Prince William.
Okay, so I don't really report on the King's health unless it is confirmed from the palace itself. I don't really discuss it much or touch upon it much because, yes, he's the king, and I see your point that you're making there, Dan. However, he's still a human being, and we're talking about private medical information, and everyone has a right to their privacy when it comes to their medical information, whether that be the king, whether it be Hazard, Megsy, Princess Catherine, anyone. Now, in terms of that clip that you played from Tom Sykes, Tom Sykes really pissed me off. It wasn't a massive.
Go on.
Right. Here we go. All right. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Tom, it wasn't a massive freaking mistake for the king to announce that he had cancer. Are you shitting me, mate? If he didn't announce that he had cancer, right? I'm telling you this right now, we would have had a Where's Kate Part 2, and you would have been involved in that as well, alongside Loozy Boozy, the Sussex Squad, idiots and morons, and the rest of them. You'd be like, where's the king? Why haven't we seen him in a while? Then there'd be comments about his appearance, etc., when he would come out in public. So by being transparent, all that BS has actually been avoided. Now, how bad is his cancer now? Do you know what? It's none of my damn business. We know, right, that King Charles, to coin a little bit of a phrase from you, Dan, has a superstar royal panel to help him and his duties. You've got the likes of Prince William, Princess Anne, Duchess Sophie, Prince Edward, etc. So, for example, with the Prince Andrew situation that you're referencing, reports are coming through that Prince William really was the main architect and the force behind getting Andrew's titles effectively removed. So, with that kind of superstar royal panel backup that the king's got, I'm not worried at all with the king and his capacity to undertake his duties. He's actually following, as far as I'm concerned, his mother's footsteps to undertake his duty as king to his country and us for as long as possible. And that, to me, needs to be applauded.
Absolutely. And I do applaud that. And it was heartbreaking to see him looking the way he did yesterday. But I guess the difference with the late Queen and Prince Philip is that people like me who were reporting on the royal family at the time knew that they were suffering from cancer. I mean, certainly the late Queen in her last couple of years had very, very serious cancer, but she chose not to announce it. So while I completely agree with you, I think Charles's transparency should be applauded. I think it's sort of unrealistic to think that people are not going to see for themselves. Interesting one, isn't it, based in Bougie? I mean, I do agree that, of course, this is up to him what he chooses to reveal. However, when it comes to the Pope, for example, in Vatican City, or the President of the United States in the US, because they are such important figures and, of course, heads of state, they do have actual medical transparency, right? Where their health records are provided in some way, obviously not all of the intimate details to the public. So I don't know. It's an interesting debate, but I think certainly where it has become very relevant in this story based in Bougie is that it's William who's now calling the shots, right? And it's William who demanded that action was taken on Prince Andrew. It's William who wants to see, I guess, the king go one step further. You know, he doesn't think it should be Prince Andrew at all. He certainly doesn't think there should be Prince Harry or Prince Archie or Duchess Meghan and Duchess Lily. I mean, William is all about protecting the future of the British monarchy, and I think he's going to take a much tougher stance. But I guess that's relevant based in Bougie because, you know, if he was not going to accede to the throne for another 20 years, then maybe it would be less relevant. Do you see the point that I'm making?
Yeah, I mean, he is the heir to the throne, so of course he's going to take quite a harsh stance, and he's going to be the one that's going to try to move the decisions around. But I guess ultimately, whether King Charles, let the public know about his health, his health issues or not, I think the main thing we need to remember is that the royal family, they're still human beings. I think people actually forget that they're still human beings. They should have a right to be private, or they should have the right to be public. Now, in this case, I think that King Charles definitely should have been public about his health issues, and we should be applauding him for that. Because look what happened with Kate when she wasn't public. There was so many rumors swirling around about her disappearing, people even saying that she was secretly dead. And it just causes so much stress to the actual institution of the royal family. So ultimately, my personal opinion on this is that I think we should just remember that the royal family are human beings, and that we shouldn't, pressurize them on when they shouldn't inform us on their, medical issues.
Steph, would you like to see King Charles go further on Prince Andrew, or do you feel that the statement released on Friday night was enough? Because there's certainly a sense of growing, I guess, political outrage in the United Kingdom that Andrew has effectively been allowed to do what Harry and Meghan were allowed to do, right? Which is just say, oh, don't worry about us. We're not going to use these titles. We're not going to use our HRH status when, of course, we know in Harry and Meghan's case, they have been.
So my understanding is the difference with Hazza, Megxi and the Prince Andrew situation is that with Prince Andrew, it's been put in pretty much abeyance. So it's this like legal agreement that Prince Andrew has got with the royal family where he's not able to use the titles again. They didn't do that with Hazza and Megxi. So that's the first thing. In answer to your other question, should they go further? Well, that's a difficult one to answer, really, in a way, because he has put the royal family into disrepute. And the main thing that members of the royal family have to do is to protect the monarch, protect the crown at all costs, which is what Prince Andrew hasn't done. So he does need to fall on his sword in order to protect the crown. At the same time, as you said earlier on, he's not being found guilty of anything, but he's lost everything. But the evidence out there doesn't look good, so you can understand why he's losing everything all at the same time. Just his association with Epstein alone, bloody hell, I can understand why he's lost everything just on that. Then you look at all the emails that are coming out and more information coming out about how he's lied about his relationship with Epstein and the girls, this, that, and the other. And so I suppose coming around to that way of thinking, you know what? Let's put it this way. If an Act of Parliament came through to remove Andrew's Prince title, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. If the royal family remove him from the royal website, again, I'm not going to lose much sleep on it.
Fall on his sword. That's the language of sacrifice, not justice. And there's a very important difference between the two. Justice asks, what did he do? Sacrifice asks, what does the institution need? And right now, what the institution needs and what the truth requires may not be pointing in the same direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Rafe Hadelman-Koo, who's a brilliant guy, you know, historian, broadcaster, excellent on royal matters, certainly a supporter of King Charles. And he's been pointing out some facts, just some clear facts around this. And based on Bougie, he just makes the point that Prince Andrew has not been formally stripped of his titles. Legally, he remains His Royal Highness, the Prince of Andrew, Duke of York, Earl of Inverness, Baron Killalea. So only Parliament can take action here.
Well, I think personally, I think they should look into his association with Epstein. Why not? Honestly, the whole world is talking about Epstein. And, obviously with Trump as well trying to shut down the case, that was suspicious. So I feel as though Andrew is the one guy that could actually give us the truth. So if they give us some kind of investigation for that, then why the hell not? And then from there, we will find out whether he was guilty or not guilty. But one thing I've realized about the media is that once the media has branded you as guilty, you're guilty for life. So
That's
I feel
the
like,
thing.
yeah, once they've branded you as guilty, whether the Sun, the BBC, you're guilty. So I just think whether they go into the investigation or not, his brand will always just be
100%.
guilty.
And that's the
But
thing.
they'll do it.
And I just try and be fair on this, right? I try and be fair on this because what you're saying matters. Yeah, I've reported a lot of stuff on Prince Andrew myself over the years. So it's not that I don't believe that he should absolutely be susceptible to full scrutiny, but we do live in a country where one of our fundamental beliefs is innocent until proven guilty. He has not been proven guilty of anything. He did want to fight Virginia Giuffre in court, and he was asked not to, and the royal establishment came down on him like a ton of bricks because, of course, it would have overshadowed his mother's platinum jubilee. So it's a difficult one. It is a difficult one, but I think we've had an honest discussion about it here without hysteria, and that's important to me. Thank you so much to my two rising stars of YouTube and new media, Based and Bougie. You've got to subscribe to her channel, and Steph, the Alter Nerd, who covers the royal family, actually, as well as British politics and many other things. You're both brilliant. Love having you on Outspoken. Thank you, Steph and Based and Bougie. We're going to reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass in just a moment. Remember, Prince Andrew is nominated. But to your feedback now, Pexie Sterling says, every time I see Sadiq Khan refusing to answer Susan Hall, my blood pressure rises, and the fact he refers to her as she, I need medication. Jaina K5V says, I used to be an Anglophile, but you could not pay me to live in the United Kingdom now. Luke Jones says, if the England football team won a trophy, you would still see Palestine flags on the streets of England. What would Gary Neville think of that? He'd probably be happy, wouldn't he? He would probably be happy. And Solarian Unlimited, speaking of Piers Morgan, says, never forget this pompous twat was very unpleasant to those who refused the jibby-jabby to the point of refusing hospital treatment for those who didn't take the free liquid gift. Anglo-Saxon 666 says he's desperate to be back in the so-called mainstream. And Paul, on this revolting comment, I think, from a guest on Sly News advocating for Prince Andrew to shoot himself, says Sky News definitely crossed a line with that comment about Prince Andrew. So great feedback from you today. But let's reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass now. A reminder of your nominees of the worst Britain in the world today. George Aberoni, nominated by Darren Donaldson, the incoming president of the Oxford Union, who has finally lost that confidence motion. nomination. He's out, folks. Great news. Zach Polanski nominated by Dr. Wolf because he leads the Green Party, acting as a Trojan horse for Islam. And Prince Andrew nominated by the Chris of Cornwall for being a complete shameful embarrassment to the British people and the monarchy. Okay, your results are in. In third position, George Aberoni with 22% of the vote. The runner-up with 33% of the vote, the Green leader, Zach Polanski. But following in the footsteps of his ex-wife yesterday, today's Union Jackass with 45% of your vote, Prince Andrew. And today's Greatest Britain is Graham Linehan, nominated by the real Mick Cass because the Met Police have dropped their investigation into his social media posts, concluding that they will no longer investigate non-crime hate incidents. Good luck to him in suing them for wrongful arrest and false.
Pull back and look at the full picture. A king managing a serious illness while trying to hold an institution together. A power shift already in motion, quietly, structurally, irreversibly. A prince stripped of his title not through justice, but through necessity. And a future king already making decisions before the crown is formally his. None of this is happening in isolation. Each piece is connected to the next. And the real story isn't what's being announced. It's what's already been decided behind closed doors, before any of us were told. If you see that layer, comment, "I see it," and subscribe, because this is what most people miss when they watch stories like this unfold. Works.